Hi, I'm Laura Cooley, and welcome to video number 2 of our guide to our 2020 middle school region etudes. Today we're going to be focusing on etude 2, and before we start, we're going to do some tone warm-ups. Okay, first, we're going to do the tone study in 6th. Now, we're going to play this slow. Okay, see over here, it says tone study in 6th, warm it up. All right, we're going to play this slow. We're going to hold the first note for 1 count and the second note for 3 counts, okay? Now, what is a 6? Well, a 6 is just an interval that means that there's like 6 notes in between the first and the second note. So if you count the lower note, C, okay, then we are going to go up to the A, C, D, E, F, G, A. All right, that's a 6. And all of these intervals in this exercise are 6th. Now, notice that there are no flats or sharps in your key signature. All right, my metronome is set to quarter note equals 56. You do not have to practice this with a metronome. I am only putting it on to make it easier to do in the video. But you can do it without a metronome at home, but I do recommend that you don't go very fast. Okay, 1 count for the first note, 3 counts for the second note. All right, no cracking. Work on that, okay? And we'll talk about that when we're done practicing this. Here we go. 2, ready, and. Now, one of the things that I like to say about practicing larger intervals is that when you're going up, when you're practicing a large upward interval that you're slurring, okay, think about pushing the air almost to the edge of the note, of the bottom note, and then just whoop, changing your embouchure to get to that upper note. So your lips don't need to be like, you don't need to be doing a lot here. And you also don't really need to be pushing your air a ton, okay? You just need to push it enough so that that neck upper note will come out when you change your embouchure, a small amount, okay? Change your embouchure a little bit. Now, and also when you're coming down, I like to think of coming down and around the note. So that means that you still have to support your air even when you're going down. So you don't want to let go of your air too much. So for example, the D to the F. If I let go of my air, it would sound like that. That doesn't sound too bad, okay? But try to keep your air supported for this exercise. Now, let's look at the second one, okay? This one is we're coming back to C every single time, and we're making our interval a little bit larger each time. Now, it says to slur this entire thing. You're probably going to need to breathe at some point in here, okay? Breathe where you need to breathe. We're going to practice this at 60, okay? So actually, I just changed my mind. Let's do it at 50. Okay, and there's no need to add any vibrato or anything. What you're really trying to do here is not crack your notes and make sure you're slurring every single note. Okay, let's play this one. So this one, it does have a B flat in your key signature. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, if you go back and watch this again, I want you to notice my lips. Notice how my embouchure does not move very much when I'm doing the smaller intervals. But when the intervals start to get really big, my embouchure does make a change, okay? Now, these are really important to just start making part of your routine. Having just like a warm-up routine that targets specific things is really helpful and really beneficial to your playing. So definitely try to add this into your routine. Okay, so here I just want to review a couple of rhythms that we have in the etude that may be a little bit unfamiliar, okay, or you might be questioning whether or not you're playing these correctly. The very first one happens a lot in the etude, okay? It happens in measure 2, in measure 4, in measure 6, okay? It happens quite a few times, and that is an eighth note with an eighth rest after it, okay? And in measure 2, the note before it is a quarter note, okay? But this is just an eighth note with an eighth rest. Now, I want you to think of an eighth note with an eighth rest as just being a very short quarter note. Okay, so make sure that you're coming right back in on the very next beat after you play this. All right, so for example, if I play measure 2, and I'm going to start right on measure 2, and I'm going to play it at 100. Actually, I'll play it at 104. Okay, this is measure 2. Okay, it just goes right on. There's not a big rest there, so be careful for that. Okay, and then the second thing is 1 rest. Te 3, te 4, te 1 rest. Te 3, te 4, te 1. Okay, and that happens, okay, at measure, kind of happens like right around measure 16, except it's te 1, te 2, te 3 rest. Te 1, te 2, te 3, te 4, te. Okay, so sorry that I wrote the numbers in wrong in that example, but it really doesn't matter. It's the same rhythm. Okay, so we're going to count that together. We're going to say it as written on the slide in front of you, okay, rather than in the music. Okay, but it goes like this. 1, te 3, te 4, te 1. Okay, so make sure that you're coming in on the and, okay, and let's actually say it how it is in the music this time. So look at measure 16, okay? Your very last eighth note in that measure is the pickup, okay? So we're actually going to say all of measure 16, all of measure 17, all of measure 18, and beat 1 of measure 19. Okay, now if that's confusing, I apologize. Start on beat 1 of measure 16. Say the rhythm. Okay, we're only saying the rhythm here on 1 te 2 te, okay? So here's beat 1 of measure 16. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 te 2 te 3. Te 1 te 2 te 3. Te 1 te 2 te 3 te 4 te 1 te. Okay? That is how you say that rhythm. There's no speeding up or slowing down. Keep it right in time. So usually etudes are targeting a specific aspect of flute playing. And this etude, one of the things it's targeting is articulation. Articulation. Now, articulation actually has 2 meanings. One of the things we're talking about when we are talking about articulation is how we tongue. Okay, so what we do specifically with our tongue and with our air to produce a specific articulation. Okay, the second definition of articulation is when we tongue. Okay, so that's marked pretty quick, easily, and noticeably into the music as slurs and tongues. Okay, when we're practicing articulation, it's a really good idea to practice it just on air and to say to with your air or when you're tonguing and when you're not tonguing. So the example down there where it says to, okay, if you're gonna do that with just your air, you're gonna go okay, and that articulation appears very frequently in this etude. That is a very common articulation, and we usually call that slur 3 tongue 1, okay, if we're just talking about it. All right, so let's do that just together. 1, 2, ready, go. And I have my finger in front of my face so that I can feel my air, okay, and make sure that I'm doing it correctly. Now, when you say that the last two, the one with the staccato on it, try to make sure you're saying it short. So don't go. You want to lighten it up. So just go just a little bit, okay? All right, let's move on to the next slide where we're going to play an exercise with this articulation. Super exciting. All right, let's play this little exercise that's in the key of F major, okay, 1 flat. We're going to work on this as a warm-up. And I said here, not only are you going to become skilled at this articulation, you're also going to be practicing your F major scale. Before you know it, you're going to be blowing through this super fast because F major is awesome because it's fun and easy to play. We're going to play it at quarter note equals, let me see here. I think we're going to try 16, 6 to, it's a little slow. How about 72? Okay, quarter note equals 72. All right, and we're going to play through this exercise. Now, notice that our articulation on all of it is 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, every single group. All right, let's try it. 1, 2, here we go. It would be really beneficial for you if you repeat that several times and maybe try to go a little bit faster each time. All right, now it's time for the fun stuff, talking about how we tongue. Okay, different articulation markings add musical interest. Okay, observe these markings closely when you're practicing. Now, I've taken out some examples directly from the etude, okay? And the very first one is measure 4, okay? Now, the very first one is just an accent, okay? The E natural to the C. It says to stress this note primarily by playing it louder. Now, I also want you to try to get a little bit of a diaphragm kick, okay, in when you do this. So you can notice that my chest is kind of pushing out a little when I do this, but that's not where your diaphragm is, okay? Your diaphragm is actually right here, all right, notice that my hand moves, I'll do it again, okay? Now, I'm moving my lower abdominal muscles in order to do that, but I'm pushing upwards with my air, and what I can do then is go, oh, that was bad, I'll do that again. So you kind of kick your air at the exact same time that you tongue, and you're going to produce a little bit of a louder accent, okay? So if you're doing this in context with the music, but it's not a huge amount, okay? It's just a okay, a tiny little bit, like you're a pirate and you're saying, ahoy, to land, over there. Yay, land. Or, some other ship that you're about to take over because you're a pirate. Anyway, all right. Now, the next thing, tenuto. Okay, a tenuto means that you're going to hold the note for its full value. Okay, now, because tenutos sometimes aren't held to their full value, okay, we have to make sure that we're paying attention and we really are holding it to its full value. So what they're really saying on this particular one, is to hold it all the way to the rest. So if you put it in context, ta-da, that's all I did. Now, tenutos don't usually take any extra diaphragm kick, okay, but maybe a little bit, like in the next example with the tenuto, okay, where it's nice and soft, and this is measure 9. It says a tenuto attached to a slur. Hold this note its full value, which I don't know how you would do that if you are slurring, how you wouldn't do that since you're slurring. And stress it. slightly. Okay, so a little bit, just a little. Okay, so you're not just going to go, you're going to go, you're not just going to move your body like I just did. Notice that my air was a little different. And I'm looking over at my music over here. That's why you see me looking at different direction. Okay, so that is how you do that. So you do a little bit of a diaphragm kick, maybe a teeny tiny bit of vibrato to stress that. Okay, our next one is the accent with the staccato. Okay, so we are going to stress this note, but sometimes how long we're supposed to hold an accent is not clear. So this is saying that we are going to stress the note, but do it with space in between the notes. Okay, so and this is measure 19, in case you're wondering. Okay, so I'm going, I'm pushing my air more with each note, okay, and I'm tonguing. And I'm tonguing actually a little bit harder, okay, because I'm doing a diaphragm kick. Okay, and you can sometimes, I like to think of staccatos as making my tongue pointy. Okay, I'm not really making my tongue pointy, obviously, but you're shortening your note to the point where you almost want to make it like a little pointy, okay, a little pointy note. Okay, so number 19, I'm going to play that one more time. Now, the last two notes of number 19, I don't know if you've noticed this yet, are marked tenuto and accented, or accent with a tenuto. So that means you're going to accent those notes, but you're going to hold them for their full value, unlike the ones right before that. So those will be like this. All right. So getting those articulations perfect should not be easy. It should take you a little bit of practice, okay? So if you didn't get it just like right in this 5 minutes that we've been working on it, that's okay. Work on it on your own. Try to get that tongue to do exactly what you want it to do and to move right with your fingers, okay? All right, moving on. Okay, so now we are going to do something that's probably going to seem a little strange to you. And we are going to tongue on our air only all the way through the etude. Okay, so that means, remember that when it's slur 3 tongue 1, we go all right, so or two is the way to think of it in your head. Okay, try to make your try to make your staccatos a little bit pointier with your tongue. Okay, now you're working to get your articulations perfect. Okay, when you start to feel comfortable getting it like that, also finger through it. So for now, sometimes you might want to just separate your articulation from your fingers, because some of the fingering in this etude can get a little bit tricky. Okay, so just work on separating that note. So now we're going to play it almost at tempo. Okay, I'm going to do 96. And this is going to be on articulation only, okay? And yes, I am going to sit here and go through the whole etude. All right, here we go. And I'm looking over at my music over here. 1, 2, ready, go. Ignore the grace notes. Okay, I lied. I'm not going to play through the whole thing, but that's pretty close. Okay, so that should have gotten you to measure 21. And I forgot to tell you before I started that not to worry about the grace notes, okay? But we are going to work on that later, okay? So let's go ahead and let's go to our next slide where we'll talk about these grace notes. So what exactly are grace notes? Well, as you can read over here, a grace note is a type of ornamentation. Okay, and just like ornaments on a tree, ornamentation decorates the music. You can see examples of your grace notes, and the very first one is in measure 6. That's number 1 there. Okay, and another type of ornamentation is a trill. Okay, and you probably have all done some trilling. Trills are fun, and grace notes are fun too, okay? But they're a little bit different than trills. Okay, so a grace note is adding in some notes into the music, okay? Whereas a trill, it's adding the notes, but it's everything still in rhythm, okay? Grace notes are really, really, really fast, okay? And they're always played just before the main note. And I say the main note and not the beat because sometimes grace notes don't go to a beat. Sometimes they're in the middle of a beat. For example, they can be like in between 2 16th notes, okay? So you want to make sure that you're not changing the overall rhythm. I repeat, the overall rhythm does not change. Okay, so you need to make sure that you are keeping everything exactly the same. The note after the grace note should be played right in time, and the note before the grace note should be played right in time. Okay, so be careful about that, and I'll work on demonstrating that for you. Okay, now the grace note has to be fitting in between the notes. Okay, so grace notes are very fast, remember. Okay, so the very first one here, in measure 6. Okay, the way that you're going to play this in time, and then we'll go over how to practice it. Okay, the way that you'll play measure 6 in time, okay, and this is quarter note equals 96. Okay, that's how you do that in time. Now, a couple of things. First of all, because your very first grace note is an A, okay, in measure 6, that means you need to play 2 A's. Okay, the note before the grace note is an A and the grace note is an A. Okay, so only, make sure you're doing it correctly. Now, first for a minute, let's practice just the grace note and the note that it's going to. So we have A, C, and E. Okay, so A is here, and then when you go to C, all you're doing is you're lifting up some fingers on your left hand. Okay, nice and easy. And then when you're going to E, you're just putting down some fingers. This is actually a pretty easy fingering. We don't have to do both at the same time like we would with some other notes. So first, just go kind of slow. Now try to get it a little faster. Okay, and eventually that'll start to become more and more comfortable to you as you go, but you want it to be as fast as possible to play those grace notes. Okay, don't play the third note. Don't play the not grace note any faster. Only the grace notes. So you may be asking, well, if I can't change the rhythm at all, how do I fit it in? You actually do change the rhythm slightly, but you don't change the start of any of the notes. Where you change the rhythm is you're going to make the notes just before the grace note a little bit shorter, okay? And it's going to be such a small difference that you're hardly even going to notice. But I'm going to play it slow so you can hear what I'm talking about here. This is 872, and this is still measure 6. Okay. Okay, and we'll work on that separately in just a moment. Okay. Example number 2. Okay, this is measure 11. Okay, so this is also a fast grace note, but then it's kind of nice. The 2 notes are just one, the E and then the note right above it, okay, which is an F. Okay, and then we just go back. So this is actually almost like a little mini trill. Okay, if they would have put a mini trill marking on it, that would have been the same thing. Okay, so this one you probably don't even have to practice real slow. Just make sure that you're holding the E that it goes to a little bit longer than you're doing the grace note. So don't go like, that's a trill. That's a trill. That's, this is a grace note. Okay, now, very last one is a little bit different. Okay, our note before the grace note is a quarter note. Okay, so longer than what we've been doing. Okay, so you really don't even have to worry about what you're going to do to change the rhythm here. But you're going G, okay, and then your grace note is a B, and then your next note is an A. So G, B, A, G, B, A. Okay, and that is practicing it, you know, fairly fast right now. Okay, we're going to look at the next slide here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and practice through our grace notes that we have in this etude number 2. Now, we're going to go nice and slow, and we're going to start with the one on measure 5. So notice over here to the left where it says time to practice it, it says to put your metronome on quarter note equals 60. And it says MM because that's metronome marking. Okay, and that's just because I'm doing a slide, so I don't have the ability to write a quarter note in there. Okay, so this is 60. You're going to play it twice. First time, no grace note. You're going to take it out so that you can tell what the rhythm is supposed to be. Second time, you're going to put the grace note in, or you're going to attempt to put it in. If it's not quite right, then you're going to go back and you're going to do it again until you can get it right. Okay, and you may need to fast forward this slide, or you may need to rewind it. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is just as I said, I'm going to play it once with the metronome with the grace note out and once with the grace note in. Okay, we're going to start with measure 5. That's our first example, measure 5 to measure 6. Okay, and then we're going to go repeat back to measure 5 right away to measure 5. Repeat. Okay, that's that one. Now let's do the second one. This is measure 11 to 12. Now I want you to notice that we're not slurring the grace note. Okay, you don't slur the F to the E in the middle there. Okay, the grace note itself should be tongued. Okay, and the E after the grace note should be slurred. Okay, so watch out for that. Okay, we are going to practice it first with no grace note, all of measure 11 and 12. Now with the grace note. And it's not honestly that clear there in the music that you're supposed to slur after the grace note, but you should, okay? The E, F, E, that second E should be slurred, okay? We don't often tongue notes after grace notes. It sounds awkward. Okay, and then measure 20 is our last example. Okay, same thing. We're going to do it without the grace note, so with the regular rhythm, and then we'll add the rhythm in. This is just measure 20. With the grace note. Okay. All right. So this slide, you can come back to this many times if you want to keep practicing it. Okay, but notice over here to the left, it says repeat each step as many times as necessary to get comfortable with it. So if you felt like you kind of did it right, but you weren't really, that comfortable with it, keep practicing it at 60 until you are comfortable. And then when you're comfortable with it at 60, then start increasing your tempo, because the metronome marking on this is 102. Okay, so you need to practice it a lot until you get to that point where you feel comfortable with it at 102 at least. Okay, so work on it really regularly until you can do it at the tempo. Okay, our next slide has an adorable kitty cat at the bottom of it. And I want you to work on this one, adding expression. And I like the kitty cat because this is a nice, cute little etude, just like this little cat is very cute. So we're gonna first kind of talk about the overall style. So the fast tempo, okay, and just kind of the overall music calls for a light and sort of bouncy style. You can sort of imagine, like kind of bouncing up and down on that. Okay, now it's also, we're going to be careful to play with vibrato. So just because you're playing fast doesn't mean you don't have to put vibrato in your music. You should be trying to add vibrato on longer notes, okay, louder passages, and where the music calls for extra expression. Okay, so over there on the left, I put in my universal symbol for vibrato into the music, and it might be a little small, but it's in blue, and that is a squiggly line. Okay, so my squiggly line tells you when you should be attempting to add vibrato. Okay, definitely add it in the quarter notes. Even if you don't add it anywhere else, put it in the quarter notes. All right, I'm gonna play through the etude for you right now, okay, and then we're gonna talk about our practice tips. One thing that I do want to point out when I'm playing this etude is I have breath marks in there as well. Don't breathe where there isn't a breath mark. Okay, it sounds awkward. And also, when you breathe, take too many breaths, it kind of actually hurts your support and makes you actually less able to hold out your air longer. I know that sounds weird, but it actually kind of makes you sort of hyperventilate. Okay, so make sure that your embouchure, the aperture here, the aperture is the hole that you're creating in your lips, is small. If it's too large, and you're gonna have a hard time with breathing. Okay, so it should be very nice and small. And notice that my corners here, they're sort of shaped like a frown. I'm not necessarily expecting you to change your embouchure, but notice that my corners are down, not like this. Okay, you can get a nice sound like this, but that's a little bit of a richer sound, okay? And that may be something that if you had me in private lessons that we would work on, but try to keep the corners of your embouchure slightly more relaxed when you're playing. Okay, here we go. This is gonna be, I'm gonna play it at 104, okay? I think that's a nice medium tempo for this. Sorry, I'm gonna take a drink of water there. Okay, remember my music's over here, so I'm going to be looking in that direction while I play. Okay, and here's 104. I'm going to play through this whole thing. Okay, a few really important practice tips. Now you should really follow every single one of these in order to be the most effective and the most successful at learning this etude. The very first one is go slow. Okay, don't speed your way through learning anything, okay? But you have to play slow in order to play fast. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true. The slower that you practice, the easier it will be for your fingers to learn the music, okay? And then you won't practice it wrong. And then when you go in and you try to play it a little bit faster the next time, you'll be able to play it better, Okay, so one thing that's a little bit challenging is like just even in the first measure when we have a C to an E natural and then back down to a B. Okay, that E natural can be a little bit challenging. One little tip about E natural, high E natural, is to take your pinky off. Okay, your pinky, when it's up, when it's down, it opens this key here, and then it adds some instability to the note. And the note itself is already a little unstable. So if you take the pinky off, it creates a more stable E natural. Okay, so I would recommend you try that. So just right now, go from C to E, okay, and take your pinky off when you get to the E. So C, now E. Now you might find it just a little more challenging fingering wise to do that, but your E will be more reliable and probably won't crack. And then also when you slur from E to B, that's actually a fairly difficult slur to do. Okay, so if you're slurring and your pinky is off on the E natural and then you put it back down on the B, that is going to make that slur easier to do. Okay, and that slur is actually one of the more challenging notes to come from, or to come, like B is hard to come to from the E above it. Okay, so watch out for that and work on that slowly. Okay, and anything else that you're having trouble with, also work on slowly. Measure 11 is a little bit challenging, okay, with the grace note added in there. Definitely practice it a lot with the grace note out, but when you do put the grace note back in, slow it down, okay, slow it down. Let's see, anything else that's super that I want to talk about fingering wise? I don't really see anything else fingering wise that I want to talk about, but you can always ask Mr. Breen if you have any questions. And if he has any questions, he can forward them to me. Okay. So work, the second practice tip. It's a little barbell because you need to work out, okay? Use the tone exercises earlier in this exercise every day. That's your flute workout, okay? They're going to help improve your embouchure flexibility and overall tone. Flute workouts, okay, improve your embouchure strength, okay? So the area around your mouth, that is going, and anytime you have improved strength, you have improved flexibility, which helps you be a better player, helps you with these larger intervals, okay, just helps you, technically helps with everything, okay? There are a lot of different things that you can add into this. You can play them faster, you can do them with more dynamics, you can do them with more vibrato, okay? All of that is going to help you become a better player, but number one is making sure you're practicing with really good sound, okay? With your best sound and no cracking at all, okay? Look for things. Don't just play through the etude, okay? Find things that really need work and work on those things, because you are wasting time when you play through stuff that you already know or you're already really good at, okay? And then what we have a tendency to do is be like, oh no, I didn't play that measure right, but I don't have time to practice that. So what you do is you start on that measure that you're not playing right, and that's where you practice, okay? And then you reward yourself by playing through the etude and having fun, because now you can play that part that you couldn't play before, okay? You can practice the part until you learn it, or you can just play through it, make a mistake every time, and never learn it. So practice the part until you've got it, and figure out what's wrong, figure out what you're not getting right, okay? When you need to play more quietly, tighten the corners, okay? Or think about like pursing more, okay? So this is normal. This is pursing more. Okay, now it seems a little funny that I'm making faces for you, but that is what you do, okay? When you have to think about changing your embouchure and not just your airstream. So for example, measure 9. Okay, so if I just change my airstream, it sounds like that. If I change my airstream and tighten my embouchure, it's more in tune and it has a better sound. You you have to keep everything very firm here in your embouchure, okay? And the very last thing, which I can't see because my screen is blocking it, is, oh yeah, silly me, practice a lot. And then you'll be so happy that you've learned it so well, okay? And you'll become an even better flute player than you already are. So keep up the good work. Okay. If you have any questions, remember that I am available for private lessons. Okay, you can ask Mr. Vereen about that. Okay, and here my favorite slide is on the next page where it says, you can go to it, go forth and practice. Actually, you can't because you're stuck on the video. Go forth and practice, please. Bye.